Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Today was Christmas Eve, the day Anastasia and Elliot were supposed to have held their engagement party. However, it was cancelled due to Francis' accident and eventual comatose state. Anastasia had also felt apologetic toward Elliot for this. In the morning, Anastasia was to head to the company for a meeting, while she would spend the night celebrating Christmas Eve with Elliot back in the Presgrave residence. When Anastasia arrived in the conference room of Tillman Constructions, she noticed Erica's resentful glares at her. The hatred in Erica's eyes seemed as though it could come bursting out, as she did not even bother to inform Erica when Naomi had been taken down to the station. Anastasia then glanced over to the man beside Erica. Alex only met Anastasia's eyes one time before he looked away, as he was afraid to make any further eye contact with her. The participants of the meeting were all key members of Tillman Constructions. When all the managers of their respective departments were present, Erica stood up and led the meeting. "My mother could not attend due to certain matters. Also, I would like to announce that Alex and I have gotten our marriage certificate. Hence, from now on, as my husband and my father's son-in-law, he will be in charge of the affairs of Tillman Constructions instead of my mother and me." Everyone present was shocked, yet some seemed to have anticipated such development, as they had seen the ambitions in Alex's eyes. Thus, it was not surprising for them to see Alex finally obtaining the position he always pined for. On the other hand, Anastasia was slightly shocked, as she had not expected Naomi to make her move so quickly by letting Alex replace her as president of the company and be the pillar of support for Erica. "Let's have President Hunter give a few words." Erica took her seat as she proudly turned her attention toward Alex. With his ambitions concealed, Alex stood up and feigned a slightly modest expression before addressing the room. "Right now, there is no one in charge. That is why Erica and I have decided to get married this early, for me to have a proper cause to manage the company. Everyone, please have faith in my capabilities. I will certainly take good care of Tillman Constructions." Since Alex still had several supporters in the company, they immediately voiced their opinions and expressed their trust in him, supporting him for the presidency of the company. Even the others that did not think highly of Alex had to stick by him, as they believed Alex would make things difficult for them in the company in the future if they did otherwise. At the moment, all Anastasia could do was watch Alex become the president of the company and how quickly he gained everyone's trust. "Anastasia, please trust me. I will certainly not let your father down," Alex said with his eyes on Anastasia with the intent to gain her trust. However, there was no chance for Anastasia to trust him, as she knew Alex was involved in her father's coma. Furthermore, considering that Alex was also in charge of the finance department, which was the most important department in the company, it was clear that Alex held too much power in his hand. Given that Erica knew next to nothing about the company's operation, it was clear as day that Alex would be fully in control of the company. No one would be able to stop Alex from doing anything he wanted at that point. "Since the company is short-staffed right now, I've decided to become a member of the company. Mr. Hunter, since you'll be the president of the company, then I'll join the finance department to gain some experience. Surely you have no qualms with that arrangement?" Anastasia would not stand by and watch her father's company being taken over by an outsider. "Anastasia, it seems you still don't trust me." Alex wore a sad expression. Erica couldn't help but refuse. "Anastasia Tillman, you're not a finance major, so why are you trying to join the finance department? Do you not trust my husband? What if I say I don't?" Anastasia sneered, "Since I hold 30% of the company's shares, I have the right to enter any department of the company. Even if I want to be the manager of the finance department, you have no right to interfere with my decision." Noticing the direction the argument was going, Alex immediately interfered. "Anastasia, Erica is right. You have no experience in finance, but if you wish to be part of the management, the planning department is lacking a manager or two. I want to be a finance manager, Anastasia said forcefully. Otherwise, I will not agree with Mr. Hunter becoming the president of the company. You, Erica choked. Then how about this, I'll be the president instead, and Mr. Hunter can continue his position as the finance manager? Dressed in a black sweater and black trench coat, Anastasia exuded an indescribable dominance as she asked with her eyebrows raised. Anastasia, the operations in the finance department are complicated. How about, Alex was becoming anxious, as Anastasia was not easy to deal with. That is not something you need to worry about, Mr. Hunter. My fiancé, Elliot, is surrounded by finance staff, and they are more than enough to teach me how a finance department operates. Anastasia said coldly. It's decided. I'll come to work tomorrow. Anastasia, hold it, Erica was so angry that her face had gone pale. Suspected as the one who poisoned our father, your mother will be facing criminal charges. That's all I have to inform you. Anastasia stood up. The stunning presence her desolate eyes gave off was just like a crimson rose, intimidating and petrifying. All at once, an uproar erupted in the room. Most of the people present were Francis employees, so they were all shocked to hear such news. Well, what are you saying? My mother? She loves my father very much. It's impossible for her to harm him. Anastasia Tillman, don't you slander my mother like this. Erica screamed. I think you all have forgotten that the initial capital for this company came from my grandmother. Hence, I'm not going to let anyone else take over the company so easily. Anastasia uttered with her gaze in the direction of Erica and Alex. Both Erica and Alex felt the oppressiveness in Anastasia's words at this point. When Anastasia was done, she stood up and left the meeting. After the meeting, in Alex's office, Erica went ballistic. Anastasia, that wretch. If my mother gets sentenced because of this, I will never let her off. Your mother was careless to have made a move at such a time. Obviously, Anastasia found out what was going on. Alex was rather angry with Naomi's behavior. Although Erica was not a bright person, she still figured out the truth of her mother's incident. Gritting her teeth, she explained, it was all part of Anastasia's plan to trap my mother. The doctors in that hospital joined hands with Anastasia to lie to us about the possibility of my dad regaining consciousness next week. It was all to entice my mom to do what she did. If Anastasia takes over the finance department, it would be inconvenient for me in the company. Alex gritted his teeth as well, as he knew Anastasia had seen through his plans for Tillman Constructions. Looks like I've underestimated her intelligence. The upcoming battle would be a battle of wits with her. Do we have to let her manage the finance department? Erica said in exasperation. This is all we can do at the moment. Between the president of the company and the manager of the finance department, obviously, I would choose the former. Currently, Alex was still very much thrilled, as he had finally become the president of the company. At the very least, he had the right to decide the company's affairs from this moment. Back in the hospital, Anastasia went to take a rest in her private lounge after visiting Francis, as she had not been sleeping well over the past few days. Elliot had also rushed over to the hospital from the company. Upon entering Anastasia's room, he found the woman lying on the sofa. The sight of her flowing black hair and delicate fair complexion in the tranquil noon were just like a painting that had come to life. Captured by such a sight, Elliot went to take a seat on the sofa next to her as quietly as possible. As he admired how Anastasia looked while she was asleep, his heart started to ache for her once more. Later, Anastasia woke up to find a pair of legs across her field of vision. As her gaze slowly traveled upward, she saw the man was going through his document intently. With the evening glow behind the man's back, he looked like a heavenly being with a golden aura surrounding him. Noticing her gaze on him, He raised his thick eyelashes slightly and met her groggy eyes. "Did you sleep well?" Elliot asked as he placed the document in his hand on the table. "Yeah, what time is it?" Anastasia asked before she sat up. "It's 5:10 right now." "It's time for us to leave for your grandmother's house, then." Anastasia ran her fingers through her smooth and silky long hair with clearly defined roots. Even her hair strands were enticing the man before her. Mesmerized by Anastasia, Elliot couldn't hold himself back and went over to Anastasia, who had already leaned back slightly with her head raised to look at him. She looked slightly taken aback. Elliot held her chin before kissing her red lips. After that, he planted another kiss on the top of her head before he said, "Let's go. Jared's waiting for us." Unsteady on her feet due to Elliot pulling her up so suddenly, Anastasia couldn't help but wrap her arms around his waist with her head leaning against his firm chest. In this position, she felt a sense of security that one would not let go the moment one experienced it. With that, she was led by the man to the underground parking lot before heading for the Presgrave residence. On their way there, Anastasia told Elliot about Alex's appointment as Tillman Construction's president. Elliot asked right away, "Do you need my help?" Anastasia replied, "No, I don't need it for the time being. I want them to give themselves away." She knew that if Alex were to leave Tillman Constructions, it would be difficult to get anything on them. As long as they still coveted her father's company, they would definitely give themselves away one day. "I'm not gonna let off those who hurt Dad." "All right, I'll pick some capable men for you." Elliot decided to let her take care of it on her own. As long as she needed him, he would always be by her side. Christmas Eve was supposed to be a day for reunions, but Anastasia's heart was heavy when she thought of her father, who was still comatose in the hospital. Still, she would never give up as long as there was still hope for him. She spent the night sleeping with her son at the Presgrave residence. Jared was very obedient and well-behaved to the point where it made her feel sorry for him. Knowing that she had to look after Francis, he didn't cry or throw hissy fits at the Presgrave residence. Meanwhile, Haley was staying alone in the master bedroom of Alex's apartment. Alex and Erica had registered their marriage and were officially husband and wife now, but Haley believed she could capture his heart with her surgically altered face. Erica was merely a tool for him to get rich, as well as the source of Haley's current expenditure. Thanks to her flair for having men eat out of her hand, Alex lavished money on her. Erica had always looked down on his background, so she treated him like dirt. On the contrary, Haley appeased and worshipped him, making him unable to resist her. It was early morning, and the 6 financial officers of Tillman Construction's finance department had just clocked in for work and were gossiping idly. Suddenly, 6 men and women swarmed into the office. Dressed in business attire, they all gave off an air of shrewdness and competence with bright and piercing eyes. Anastasia came in from behind them before saying to the financial officers in the office, "Sorry, but you all will be laid off as required by work. Don't worry, we'll give you your due by offering you 3 months of wages as compensation." "Why are we laid off, Miss Tillman?" a female employee asked angrily. "That's right. It's not like we committed any mistakes. We're doing well at our job." All Anastasia could do was apologize to them. With that, the whole finance department was reshuffled and its employees were all replaced by the ones sent by Elliot. Now working for Anastasia, these people started to settle all of Tillman Construction's accounts over the last 3 years. When Alex hurried to the scene, all his previous subordinates had already been replaced with Anastasia's people, who were sitting in the office. "Miss Tillman, your people don't understand Tillman Construction's accounts. It's easy for mistakes to happen," he said, forcibly suppressing his anger. "I know that, so my people will start by settling my dad's accounts over the last 3 years. If anything wrong happens, I'll take responsibility for it," Anastasia replied with folded arms. He let out a sigh and asked, "Miss Tillman, are you displeased because I've taken over your dad's position?" However, she replied, "Nope, Mr. Hunter. I just thought that you can only do so much. Since you're handling the company's projects, it'll be difficult for you to take care of the company's finances, so I'm here to take over to ease your burden." Alex couldn't do anything about her. However, his previous plans to transfer Tillman Construction's funds fell through. Anastasia was having control over the company's core department, and the new employees she had brought with her were definitely financial elites trained by Elliot, so Tillman Construction's accounts were going to be as clear as day. A murderous glint flashed across his eyes. He didn't want to lay a hand on her, but she had indeed become an obstacle to his money-making. "Well, in that case, Miss Tillman, I'll leave the finance department to you. You can come to me if there's anything," he replied with superficial friendliness while concealing his anger. Anastasia nodded. "All right." At this moment, her cell phone rang. She darted a glance at its screen before picking it up. "Hello? Are you free? Take a look at today's morning news." Walking toward the French window, Anastasia pleaded with the man, "Come on, just tell me what happened. I'm quite busy. Riley has been sentenced to death. Aliona and her people aren't able to escape legal punishment as well. Serves them right. But how did he get sentenced to death? They brutally killed Lucas' son abroad, so Lucas sued him. He was sentenced to death at the first trial for multiple crimes." Anastasia closed her eyes. "There's also the death of my mom and the kidnapping of Elliot when he was a child. This guy deserves death for having blood on his hands," she thought. "How are my people doing at their job? They're very professional. I'll pick you up and take you to the hospital this afternoon." "Okay." Anastasia nodded. Meanwhile, Alex was in his office, but he was in no mood to work at this very moment. He wanted to get rid of Anastasia so that he could have complete control over Tillman Constructions by manipulating Erica. However, he was fearful of Elliot's power and influence. After all, Anastasia was Elliot's sweetheart. If anything were to happen to her, he'd probably get to the bottom of it. He thought of Erica, who had no brains and could easily be made a scapegoat. Sitting in France's former office, Alex was enjoying the feeling of superiority when the telephone before him rang. He picked up the receiver, saying, "Hello? President Hunter, President Zimmer from the Golden Meadows Property Group is here. He says he has something to discuss with you." Alex immediately instructed, "Show him to the conference room." "I'll be there right away." He dared not snub President Zimmer, who was one of France's longtime clients and whom he had to keep sweet. After straightening his clothes, he called his assistant over and went to the conference room with the latter. As soon as he pushed the door and entered, he immediately greeted President Zimmer with great enthusiasm, saying, "Why take the trouble to come all the way here, President Zimmer? If there's anything, just call me, and I'll come to you right away." "What a fine young man who has to be treated with respect, President Hunter." "I've heard about President Tillman, and I wish him a speedy recovery," President Zimmer replied. Then, he continued with a grave look in his eyes, "President Hunter, I'm here to tell you something in person. I'm afraid my company isn't going to be able to fill the order as specified in our contract." Alex's heart tensed at once. He couldn't help but ask with a smile, "President Zimmer, we have a long-standing relationship. Is there anything that you're worried about?" President Zimmer shook his head. "No, it's that I'm going to retire, so my son has taken over my job. He has his own ideas and wants to cancel our collaboration with your company, and I can't do anything about it. That's why I went out of my way to come here to apologize to you and tell you about it." "I'm sorry, President Hunter," he said before getting up to leave. Alex panicked involuntarily. "President Zimmer, we can still talk about this. If there's anything about us that you're dissatisfied with, we can dash. My son has made up his mind on this, so there's no way I can talk about it," President Zimmer said before leaving. Alex's face darkened for a moment. He knew that the cancellation of their collaboration must have something to do with his appointment as president. Soon after that, he received phone calls from several clients, who also proposed to renegotiate their existing collaborations. Alex was panicked by the phone calls. Not only that, but many of his clients canceled their orders in just one day, causing most of the orders Francis had secured for the company to be canceled. Alex was totally incapable of conducting business. He had thought that he could get through the year by relying on these orders. But now, he only had very few projects left at hand just days after the company fell into his hands. It was justifiable if there was only one person who canceled their order, but now, Alex had a feeling that someone was plotting against him. Who could it be? Who would have such great capability? That person clamped down on almost all of Tillman Construction's projects for this year. Alex's face changed color. He thought of someone fearsome. Elliot. Could he be the one making trouble behind my back? If this is really his doing. Feeling tremendous pressure, Alex couldn't help but rise from his seat before heading straight for the finance department's office, where Anastasia had an office of her own and was reviewing the accounts that had been straightened out. Francis had been doing a good job over the past few years, so the company's performance had been very stable. Just then, Alex came in somewhat anxiously. "Miss Tillman, I'd like to talk to you." Anastasia raised her eyebrows impassively. "Is there anything, President Hunter? Could you ask President Presgrave to give us a break and stop targeting Tillman Constructions? This is your dad's company, after all," Alex said in an almost pleading tone. Anastasia frowned slightly. "I don't know what you're talking about. Your dad secured quite some projects last year, but now those clients intend to cancel their orders. I only have a handful of small orders now, but they can hardly sustain the company's growth." Anastasia seemed unruffled on the surface, but she was surprised inwardly. Did Elliot really take action against Alex? What is he up to? This has nothing to do with Elliot. If the clients want to cancel their orders, you should look within yourself for the reasons instead of blaming him for it, she argued. Then, she mocked coldly, "Mr. Hunter, I believe nothing will happen to my dad's company as long as it's in your hands. You're such a capable person, after all. In that case, Miss Tillman, please ask President Presgrave if he has anything to do with this. If this is really his doing, please ask him to give the projects back to us," Alex implored humbly. However, it was clear that Anastasia wouldn't help him. "The company's projects are your own business. I'm only in charge of the company's finances." Alex also realized that Anastasia didn't care at all about Tillman Construction's fate. However, he cared about it. Francis would never regain consciousness for life, which would make the company his property. Therefore, he had to make sure that the company made profits. Now that he had married Erica, he was considered one of the company's major shareholders. Not only that, but Erica intended to transfer to him the 40% shares Naomi owned in the company, making him the company's largest shareholder. As soon as he left, Anastasia took out her phone and dialed Elliot's number. "Hello?" A male voice answered the phone with a chuckle on the other end, as if knowing that she would call him. "Is it because of you that Tillman Constructions lost a few big projects?" Anastasia asked. "Yes, it is." "Why would you do that?" Anastasia was puzzled. "I want to acquire Tillman Constructions," Elliot said. "How are you gonna acquire it, then?" Anastasia had no objection to his methods. Elliot sounded like he was talking about something ordinary. "Since Alex wants so much to have your dad's company to himself, I'll let him taste what it's like to be burdened with huge debts. He's got only himself to blame for asking for trouble. Is there anything that I can do for you?" "No, it's not necessary. Let me do it by myself." Elliot had planned this for a long time. Alex was one of the people he hated the most because he had overreached himself by courting Anastasia. This alone was sufficient to land him on Elliot's blacklist. I'm checking the company's accounts, and I found some issues. The accounts don't tally, there's a difference of several million. Anastasia took charge of Tillman Construction's finances precisely to dig up dirt on Alex. Francis trusted him very much, but had he done something behind the former's back? Perhaps she could find some issues. All right. I'll come pick you up. Elliot wanted to pick her up from work. Okay. I'd like to go to the hospital to visit my dad. Meanwhile, Alex was sitting in Francis' former seat. He wasn't that stupid. Instead, he smelled danger. He was suddenly becoming Tillman Construction's largest shareholder. If the company went bankrupt one day, he would have to take on huge debts. Not only would he fail to become rich, but he would also be heavily in debt, all thanks to the tricks played by Elliot, the multimillionaire capitalist. The conjecture brought him out in a cold sweat. Just then, however, Erica called, saying, "Hey Alex, I'm now on my way to your office to bring you my mom's equity contract before we sign the share transfer agreement." Alex was caught in a dilemma. On the one hand, there was the temptation of Tillman Construction's shares. On the other hand, however, there were Elliot's overwhelming capabilities. Damn it. Looking extremely irritable, he pushed the documents off his desk. Elliot was standing in his way of getting rich, but he was powerless to fight back. Anastasia had just picked up her bag and was about to leave the finance department when Erica came and stopped her face to face. "Let's talk." Anastasia looked at her with folded arms. "About what?" "My mom will never set Dad up, so you must have made a mistake." "Please have her released," Erica uttered between clenched teeth. Anastasia's eyes flashed fire. "Erica, if you still have a conscience, please care about Dad instead of making excuses for your mom. He's hovering between life and death now." Erica was visibly startled. "What happened to Dad?" "From now on, you no longer have to know my dad's condition." Anastasia clenched her fists. In her opinion, Erica's actions had made her unqualified to be Francis' daughter. "What gives you the right to not let me know his condition?" "He's also my dad," Erica protested diffidently. Then, recalling that she was here to beg Anastasia for mercy, she immediately pleaded in a softer voice, "Sis, please let my mom off." Whatever she did, she only did it in a momentary lapse of judgment. "She's my mom and your stepmother, after all. Could you please let her off? Even if Dad wakes up, he'll surely forgive her." Anastasia darted a look at her in disgust. "It's useless to beg me. You guys never treated me as part of the family, and I always treat you guys as outsiders." Erica suggested, "In that case, Anastasia, what do I need to do for you to let my mom off? How about this? I'll give you 10% of my shares so that you let her off." As someone who was greedy for profit, she thought Anastasia was the same kind of person as she was. Upon hearing Erica's words, Anastasia only found them an insult to her character. She looked at Erica with darkened eyes, saying, "I'm telling you, no amount of money can save the person who hurt my dad. I want them to pay the price and get their due punishment." "You." Frightened by the look in Anastasia's eyes, Erica took a step back. Immediately, she said between clenched teeth, "Even if you've got my mom arrested, my mom's shares are now transferred to Alex. You'd better forget about taking away her shares." Hearing Erica's words, Anastasia only felt that all the former could see was the company's shares. She's so blinded by greed that she's got no sense of kinship to speak of. What a sad thing for him to have such a daughter. Just give him the shares. I don't care about it. Her lips curled into a sneer. Erica was angry deep down. Is there anything else that can upset Anastasia? With that, Anastasia left with her purse. Elliot has probably arrived downstairs, she thought. Erica returned to Alex's office with her purse. Seeing him standing before the French window and looking out the window, she happily walked over to him. "Alex, I've brought the agreement here." At this moment, Alex was looking at the 3 Rolls-Royces at the company's entrance. He saw the man who stepped out of the car in the middle, who made him feel inexplicably oppressed even from a distance away. Elliot? Why is he here? Erica's heart thumped when she saw the man downstairs. Shrouded in the last rays of the evening sun, he looked as handsome as a god as he stood there. Just then, however, she saw Anastasia walking up to him. He walked toward Anastasia as well. Putting his arm around Anastasia's shoulders affectionately, he took her bag from her and escorted her into the car. Eyes ablaze with jealousy, Erica ground her teeth in hatred. Elliot seemed to sense the gaze from the 3rd floor, for he turned his head and shot an icy look in the 3rd floor's direction. Alex held his breath. The look in Elliot's eyes made him feel threatened. After Elliot's car drove away, Erica took the agreement out of her bag. "Here, Alex. Sign it." Looking at the share transfer agreement, Alex felt incredibly torn. He couldn't decide whether to sign it or not. He still couldn't make a guess at what exactly Elliot wanted to do with Tillman Constructions. If he obtained the 40% shares, he might be able to make some money. If he didn't sign the agreement now, he would be nothing. Driven by self-interest, he lost his ability to reason, and his presence of mind flew out of the window. In the end, he stretched out his hand and signed his name on the document, becoming a slave to his desire. "Alex, congrats on becoming Tillman Construction's largest shareholder. I'll be depending on you from now on," Erica said before coming over to give him a sweet and charming kiss. Having lost her mother, Erica could only rely on Alex. "Erica, Anastasia is checking the company's finances. I have a few external funds that I'm afraid might get found out. Can you help me when that happens?" "You embezzled the company's money?" "About $3 million. Alex wasn't afraid to admit it. Erica had to depend on him now, anyway. "What? How could you?" Erica wanted to scold him, but she could only bite back her words when it occurred to her that he was now her husband. "How can I help you?" "Anastasia is now in control of the company's finances, so she'll definitely find out about it. When that happens, just say that you had me divert the money to your bank account for your personal use back then. You're Frances' daughter and her younger sister. As long as you claim to be the one who spent the money, nothing will happen." Alex asked her to take the blame. Erica said reluctantly, "Okay then." Having finished his speech, Alex asked, "Do you know what Anastasia is up to?" Then, he told her about the danger. "She had Elliot steal our clients to cause breaks in Tillman Construction's funding chain. She wants to force the company into declaring bankruptcy." "What? She wants to make my dad's company go bankrupt?" Erica was exasperated. "Is she nuts? As long as Tillman Constructions faces bankruptcy, it'll undergo liquidation by the bank. When that happens, every shareholder of the company will be burdened with its debts. At that point, we'll be weighed down by massive debts and be finished for life." Upon hearing this, Erica instantly went weak at the knees. She just wanted to get some money from the company, but she never wanted to become saddled with debts. But Anastasia herself owns 30% of the company's shares. Is she stupid? She thought to herself. Who cares if she gets into debt? She's got Elliot backing her up. The debts will be massive for us, though. If we can't pay them off, we're gonna go to jail. Alex intentionally aroused Erica's fear since this was the only way to drive her into action. And sure enough, her eyes blazed with immense hatred at his words. She uttered between clenched teeth, "If she dares to make Tillman Constructions go bankrupt, I'm not gonna let her off. Erica, now that we've lost a few clients, our company is in danger. Hurry and beg her to persuade Elliot to stop," Alex suggested. Erica wanted to visit Francis early tomorrow morning. She couldn't be too heartless. After all, she was now still his daughter and would remain so for life. I'm Francis' second daughter as long as the secret of my parentage isn't found out. It was night. Anastasia's heart ached in silence as she sat before Francis' bed and looked at the grayish hair on his temples. The good news was that his vital signs were stable, with no signs of sequelae. However, it was unknown whether he could regain consciousness. The doctor said he might come round all of a sudden or remain comatose like this, so all she could do was wait patiently. It was already about 11 p.m. when she finally left his bedside. Tired, she went back to the room only to see the man working on the sofa. He had a laptop placed on his lap and was tapping away at the keyboard with his slender fingers. Anastasia was startled. Dressed in a black turtleneck sweater, the man seemed stony and yet charming under the light. With a serious expression, Elliot looked up at her. "You're back? Take a shower and go to sleep." "What about you? Aren't you going to sleep?" she asked. She didn't want him to stay up late working either. Of course, Elliot wasn't supposed to sleep in her room. However, when he heard her question, he immediately looked up in surprise with incredibly bright eyes. "Do you want me to sleep with you?" Anastasia looked into his eyes before lowering her head in embarrassment. "Yeah, you can." Elliot closed his laptop and didn't care about his work anymore. "All right, let's sleep together." By the time Anastasia came out after taking a shower, Elliot was already waiting for her in bed, having taken a shower earlier. She watched as he changed into gray pajamas. Dressed in lilac pajamas, she lifted the covers and got into bed. Then, she turned off the lights and naturally lay down in his arms. The man behind her whispered in her ear in a deep voice, "I want you to stop going to work from tomorrow onward." "Why?" asked a puzzled Anastasia. "Whenever Alex takes a second look at you, I feel that he's damned." Elliot's voice was dripping with jealousy. Anastasia's red lips curved up slightly. "It's funny how this guy looks whenever he gets jealous. All I have for him now is hatred," she explained. "Let me deal with these people. I'll give them the most tragic end." Elliot couldn't wait to do it himself. Anastasia replied, "Naomi is taking the blame for everything now, but I know that Alex, Erica, and Colin are also involved in the plot against my dad's life. None of them are gonna get away with it." Her eyes flickered with rage in the darkness. Perhaps her father would wake up, causing the allegations of him changing his will to fall apart. Still, it was unknown when he would come round. On the other hand, these people were now reaping the fruits of others' labor, dividing up his company amongst themselves and enjoying his wealth. Therefore, she hoped that these people would pay the price when he regained consciousness. The night deepened, and Elliot held his posture without moving. The lady in his arms was already soundly asleep, as though she slept best in his arms. However, she didn't realize that the man almost always lost sleep on nights when they slept in the arms of each other like this. There was no way he could hold her in his arms without feeling aroused, so he could only suppress his urges. Still, in the face of the woman whom he longed for day and night, his self-control, which he always prided himself on, had long broken down. All he could do was kiss her several times on the cheek in the moonlight to comfort himself. When Anastasia woke up the next morning, she found that the man beside her was still sleeping. She got out of bed quietly without waking him. Having had a good night's sleep, she washed up and had breakfast before leaving to check on Francis. However, as soon as she reached the hallway, she saw the lady who was signing her name at the nurse's station, Erica. Consequently, her face darkened slightly. Erica saw her as well. Taking a deep breath, she concealed the glint of hatred in her eyes, recalling that she was here today to beg Anastasia. "Sis, how is Dad?" This was the first time she called Anastasia sis in such a calm manner. Anastasia didn't want to acknowledge such a woman as her sister, though. She retorted impassively, so you still care about my dad, huh? I thought all you cared about was the company. He's my dad. Of course I care about him, Erica argued somewhat guiltily. Dad is fine. You don't have to come if there's nothing. Anastasia wished she could see through Erica. She wanted to know whether the latter's heart was black and why the latter would conspire with her mother against her own father. Sis, did you have Elliot steal Dad's company's clients to make his company go bankrupt? Erica questioned between clenched teeth. Folding her arms across her chest, Anastasia replied deprecatingly, Aren't you and your husband the ones in charge of the company? Please, sis, I'm begging you. It's Dad's company that we're talking about. The company matters more to him than his own life. Could you please not make it go bankrupt? Erica pleaded with an imploring look in her eyes. She was willing to humble herself for money. Just then, Anastasia's phone rang. After glancing at its screen, she walked to the other side of the hallway and answered it. Hello? Miss Tillman, we found several abnormal payments that might have been misappropriated. The total amount misappropriated is more than $3 million. Trace the money and find out where it is. Roger that, Miss Tillman. We'll go to the bank to track down the money in the company's name. Anastasia hung up the phone. She had caught hold of evidence of Alex misappropriating the company's funds, but this was far from enough. Alex was also in that car on the night of Francis' accident. Along with Naomi and Erica, he had delayed the rescue of Francis. His end shouldn't be so simple, she thought. Erica had entered the ward. As she looked at Francis, who was lying comatose in his sickbed, her eyes flickered with resentment. She had called this man Dad for over 20 years, despite having no blood ties with him. If she didn't gain anything from him, the 20 years she had spent calling him Dad would go to waste. Seeing Anastasia's figure, she instantly started play acting with tears gushing from her eyes. Wake up, Dad. Please wake up, Dad, please. Dad, I miss you. I miss you so much. Anastasia looked on while standing in front of the French window, knowing full well that Erica's tears were all crocodile tears. Meanwhile, in a downtown shopping mall, a stylishly dressed Haley was holding Alex's arm and shopping with her face mask on. Her face had gone under the knife, but it was still pretty. Alex had come to like Haley as well. Having a way with men, she indulged all his desire for fulfillment when he was with her. This shirt is nice. Try it on. It's too pricey. Alex didn't feel like trying it on when he saw the price tag. However, Haley tugged at his hand, saying, No, that won't do. You have to try it on. You're not Mr. Hunter anymore. You're now President Hunter. Alex was instantly pleased by the look of adoration and admiration in her eyes. He tried the shirt on, after which she paid for it with his money, which he spent willingly. Erica could never give him this kind of feeling. Despite marrying him, she always looked down on him. Only Haley could tickle his vanity. Getting very sentimental at this moment, he suggested, Haley, once I get money from Tillman Constructions, let's buy a house by the sea. We'll get married, have kids, and live out our lives there in retirement, okay? Sure. I can't wait to enjoy such a life with you. Give me some more time. Once I get the money, I'll quit right away. I'll divorce Erica and marry you. All right, I'll wait for you patiently. Haley smiled with smugness in her eyes. Anastasia will never know that I'll be spending her father's money for the rest of my life, she thought to herself. On the other hand, Erica left the hospital and went back to the Tillman residence. What was once a cozy home for her was now devoid of warmth. All that was left was a servant who was still in employment, who took care of the housekeeping and cooked meals for her. Welcome back, Miss Erica. Would I like something to eat? Asked Mrs. Garner. Erica sat on the sofa. She missed Naomi and wanted to get her out of police custody. Otherwise, with the evidence Anastasia was holding, Naomi would definitely be sentenced to jail. She could only be released if Anastasia relented and dropped the case against her. Anastasia is so uncompromising in her stand, and she hates Mom. There's no way she'll let Mom off, thought Erica. The thought made her feel anxious and unsettled. Just then, the doorbell rang. Mrs. Garner got up and went outside to answer the door. When she saw a strange man outside the gate, she asked curiously, "Who are you looking for?" The man outside was in his early 50s, with a wrinkly face, a hunchback, and grayish-white hair. One could tell at a glance that he belonged to the underclass society. "Excuse me, but does Naomi Lowell live here?" "Why are you asking for her, madam?" Mrs. Garner asked with a hint of disdain in her voice as she somewhat looked down on the man. "I've got something urgent to discuss with her." Mrs. Garner dared not let him in carelessly, though. "Madam isn't at home. Only Miss Erica is." In the living room, Erica also wondered who was popping in on them. She waited for a long time, but Mrs. Garner didn't let the visitor in, so she had no choice but to come out on her own. "Who is it, Mrs. Garner?" "Miss Erica, it's a stranger." "We don't know him," Mrs. Garner replied before looking at the man outside through the gate. The man outside also looked at Erica through the gate. Suddenly, his eyes lit up with excitement. "You're Naomi's daughter?" Erica looked at him before waving her hand in disgust. "Go away. Don't come begging at my door." The man outside was stunned. Grasping the railing tightly with both hands, he asked, "Are you really Naomi's daughter? What does that have to do with you?" "Get lost, you damn beggar!" Erica yelled crossly. The man's expression changed. "Can we talk, young lady? I've got something to ask you about." "I don't have time to talk to you," Erica said before tugging at Mrs. Garner. "Just ignore him." The man watched as Erica left. Then, he looked at the Tillman family's mansion with a glint of greed in his eyes. Erica returned to the sofa, her mood made even worse by the man outside. She said to Mrs. Garner, "If you see that guy again in the future, just ignore him and shoo him away." "But he knows Madam, Miss Erica." "Could he be a friend of hers?" "How could my mom possibly have such a poor friend?" "One can tell at a glance that he's a beggar who came to my house to beg for money," Erica swore unmannily. Having developed an air of superiority at this house, Mrs. Garner nodded in agreement. "That's right. How could Madam possibly be friends with such a person?" Erica then dialed Alex's number, upon which he answered the phone on the other end. "Hey, Erica. Where are you?" "I'm meeting a client." "When are you coming home?" "I'll be back in a while." "Come back, then. I'm bored of being alone." Erica was yearning for Alex to come back to this home. Unbeknownst to her, however, Alex was sitting in a cafe with Haley in his arms at this very moment. Not only did she watch coquettishly as he answered the phone, but she even snuggled up to him somewhat purposely. After hanging up the phone, Alex looked down at Haley. "I have to go back to keep her company tonight." Reluctant to part with him, Haley held him in her arms. "I don't want you to leave. I want you to sleep with me tonight. Just be good and put up with it a little longer. Once I get the money from Tillman Constructions, I'll divorce her right away," Alex said, comforting her. Only then did Haley pout her lips. "Okay." Anastasia didn't go to her office today. Instead, she went to the Presgrave residence in the afternoon to take Jared out to relax. They took a stroll in the park, with several bodyguards escorting them from behind to ensure their safety. Jared seemed to know something, and a hint of grief sprang to his big eyes. "Mommy, when will Grandpa wake up?" "Your grandpa is ill, so he needs some time to wake up. Let's wait for him a little longer, okay?" Jared blinked his eyes. Being a sensible child, he behaved himself very well at the Presgrave residence. Elliot often took the boy with him to the Pressgrave group or to hang out at shopping malls. "Jared, I'll be busy these days." "It's okay, Mommy. Just go ahead with your business." "I'll be good," Jared replied sensibly. He was well taken care of at the Pressgrave residence, where Harriet treated him like her own great-grandson. He said mysteriously, "Mommy, I saw Mr. Pressgrave's photo album last time." "Guess. Do you look very much like him?" "Yeah, that's right. I'm the double of him. When I looked at the photos of him as a child, I felt like I was looking at myself." Anastasia gave an inward sigh. To think there's such a coincidence, she thought. After they finished taking a stroll in the park, the bodyguards took Jared back to the Pressgrave residence, whereas Anastasia returned to the hospital. As soon as she arrived downstairs, her cell phone rang. "Hello," she said. "Miss Tillman, we found that Alex had bought a small apartment with the misappropriated money," reported someone from the finance department. "All right. Note it down and keep looking into it," Anastasia instructed. As soon as she stepped into the lobby, she saw Elliot coming in with several doctors. She turned to see the man, who carried himself with the grace of a leader. Like other women in the lobby, she stood aside and started to admire him. Fixing Anastasia with deep, fathomless eyes, Elliot whispered something to an elder next to him before coming toward her. Anastasia sized him up with her head slightly tilted to one side. Elliot narrowed his eyes, asking, "What are you looking at?" "I find that you're really quite handsome," Anastasia praised. Elliot was inwardly pleased by her words. Still, he asked somewhat sourly, "Only now do you realize it?" Anastasia couldn't help but chuckle. "I've never seen the doctor just now before." "Is he newly hired?" They're cardiac and neurology specialists specially hired from other hospitals in hopes of improving your dad's condition." Seizing the opportunity, Ray, who was standing beside them, said, "Miss Tillman, President Pressgrave has gone to a lot of trouble to hire these specialists. He personally went to them and earnestly pleaded with them to come over. How much I look like him."
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.